Now, this doesn't just affect, we heard yesterday that, cabinet ministers having terrible trouble because of PEP status. I said the other day that what may happen here is we'll discourage people for going into public life. Well, here's a very good example. James Giles is a councillor in Kingston and leader of the Kingston Independent Residents Group, which is, James, a registered political party.
It is.
Yeah, you're registered with the Electoral Commission and you stand in elections on that ticket and you're engaged. You've got your own local manifesto and what you fight for, what you believe in. You've got a couple of elected councillors, of which you're one. But you're having problems.
Well, yes, we are, Nigel, and I find it staggering. So HSBC wrote to us during the COVID lockdown and said, without any explanation, we're changing the terms of your bank account. We're going to start levying fees on every transaction that you make. You're going to have a fee just to have the account, and all these things which a community group, a small organisation like ours ordinarily wouldn't have to put up with. We're a smaller political, as you can imagine.
I'm guessing very small political sums.
Oh, quite, absolutely. Almost certainly less than £1,000 a year.
Oh, gosh.
The only time we broke, I think, 1,000 was in an election year. We really are talking £100 for a leaflet here, £100 there. And so we tried to reach out to other banks. We went to NatWest, who our treasurer has personally banked with for over 20 years. They took our application, came back and said, nope, we're not going to bank you. We went then to TSB. We thought we'll try one of the smaller banks, if you like. Yeah. So we put in an application with them and they said, no, we're not going to bank you. And we thought, well, I personally at the time banked with Metro Bank, and they have a branch in Kingston and they're meant to be quite community-minded. So we went to Metro Bank, and there they say they do people banking. So sat down, had a lovely conversation with the bank manager, who said, yeah, we've had loads of groups, coming to us recently, people like yourselves, and even at the time, the almost diminishing local branch of UKIP apparently seeking to bank with the Metro Bank. Yeah. Wouldn't be a problem at all. Leave it with us. We'll get that open for you. 2 weeks later, we're not offering you a bank account. Yeah, and Gina Miller had an account at Monzo, and there's some argument about whether the account was open correctly, but their account was closed, and it's wrong at any level, isn't it? The thing that really gets me about this, James, and why it's good to get you on, is that local democracy matters. It really does matter hugely. And Liz Truss wrote a piece in the Sunday Telegraph, sort of echoing a bit what I've been saying, that if you make it impossible for people to be involved as public figures in politics, you diminish democracy in this country. No, you absolutely do. And I sit on the LGA Independent Group, which represents independent councillors from across the country. And it's becoming ever more difficult for people who want to go against the duopoly, go against the grain and, stand for what they believe in to actually get involved. Yeah. And if we didn't have a bank account, can you imagine if I went to a resident who wanted to give us a paltry sum and said, just give us a little bit of cash, love? It just would be completely and utterly inappropriate. And if you don't have access to banking, you cannot fulfil your basic democratic duties that you're trying to undertake. This problem operates on a whole load of levels. We've got the small businesses and the banks don't want their cash. We've got the branches closing all over the country. Have you seen this debanking problem locally amongst your constituents? Yeah, we've got a large ethnic minority population in my area in particular, and a number of those are having trouble accessing banking, in part because all the bank branches are closing. We used to have, from memory, 7 banks on our high street. We now just have one, and it's Building Society. Yeah. And it's becoming a real challenge. But what really troubles me is the fact that if you're trying to apply for a bank account, be you a small political group, even a community group, banks can just turn around and say, no, you're not having an account, and give no justification whatsoever. And it seems to be systematic, bank after bank after bank. So we've now submitted subject access requests, actually. Good. In the last few days following the account closed campaign, to try and get to the bottom of just exactly what it was that the banks so vehemently disagreed with, whether it was that we didn't think a local cycle lane should be built, or whether it's the fact we didn't want to increase council tax, but something's offended them. And the point about accountclosed.org is, we are completely non-political. We don't take sides. It's about what's right and wrong. And David Davis made these comments in the Sun on Sunday yesterday, which I really wanted to hear. Everyone should have the right to a bank account, and certainly a legal, registered political party ought to be able to operate. Thank you.
for coming
Pleasure.
in and sharing your story. And the more this scandal unfolds, the more you realise it operates on a whole number of levels.